胸膛，让我多么疲惫，有来的个偏哟。
Thank you so much for joining Tibet House Trust this evening for discussion on finding common ground, rebuilding trust, friendship, and shared values across cultures. The evening will begin with 1 hour-long talk from Venerable Geshe Dorji Damdul, followed by 30 minutes of questions from the audience. And once the talk is concluded, there will be a reception with drinks and snacks. I'm so happy to welcome you to this free open forum event, and I please encourage you to take a moment to contribute. There is a donation box in the back of the room, and it's blue. All proceeds will be used to support Tibetan education for children in India, support the elderly care homes, and the Tibetan Center for Children with Special Needs. I now welcome the Secretary of Tibet House Trust, Tenzin Namda, to formally introduce our guest this evening. Thank you.
Good evening and warm welcome to all. As you may be aware, Tibet House Trust annual talk series was established in 2016. This is our 11th talk in series, and the purpose of this talk is to promote compassion and ethical living in today's world while honoring the vision and lifelong works of His Holiness the 14th Dalai Lama. And it is my great pleasure to introduce our distinguished speaker for this evening, Venerable Geshe Dorji Damdul. He is highly respected Tibetan Buddhist scholar, teacher, and translator. Since 2011, he has served as director of Tibet House in New Delhi, India, the Culture Center for His Holiness the 14th Dalai Lama. Born in 1969, Geshe devoted many years to studies of Buddhist philosophy, logics, and psychology. In 2002, after more than 15 years of rigorous study, he earned the Geshe Haramba degree from Debunglo Seling Monastic University. He is widely recognized for his role as an English interpreter for His Holiness the 14th Dalai Lama. Through his lecture, teaching, and translation across the world, he is well known for making Buddhist teaching easy to understand and relevant to today's world. Before we proceed, I would like to briefly acknowledge the work of Tibet House Trust. It is a UK registered trust whose mission is to preserve Tibetan culture, support Tibetan community in exile, and promote the values of compassion, non-violence, and education. The trust works closely with Central Tibetan Administration in Dharamsala, funding programs in education, healthcare, and providing scholarship and support to the students in schools, monasteries, nunneries across India and Nepal. It is truly an honor and privilege to welcome Geshe this evening. Without further ado, please join me in offering him a warm welcome. Welcome, Geshe. Thank you.
Thank you, Namla, and respected representative of His Holiness the Dalai Lama. Thank you, ma'am, and all the Tibet House staff here, as well as my friends. And here I can see many faces, which I know the last 30 years ago, 40 years ago, 50 years ago. Very inspiring to see my long-term friends here. And the talk, as the moderator indicated, is about creating a common ground for the friendship, trust, and shared values across the cultures. It's very important for all of us. The first thing that we need to think of or to contemplate on is what's the purpose of my life? Each one of us, what's the purpose of my life? Say, London for me is about like 3 years ago. Most like 2 years ago that I was here last, and this time more exposed to the London space, and in my mind there was a mixture of many thoughts, seeing how busy people were in their own life, very busy, and it's sort of like meeting with my friends, since many years ago, now grown old, and there's all the realities of life. So the question is, what's really the purpose of life? This is a very serious question that we need to contemplate, and some who I know, like Dr. here, and they're very young, and some like my age, up down, like my age, older. So the question is, if I were to be as young as this young man present, yes, then the question is that what's the purpose of life? Is it for this young man to eventually become old like me? And then what did he do? What did he accomplish in your life? These are very serious questions, and I would say that it's worthwhile to contemplate. And this, I'm sure, will make our life easier, and make our life more meaningful, and make our life more beautiful. Otherwise, I remember when I was 12 years old, I discovered the age of one of my seniors, who happened to be 16 years old. And literally, I was taken aback and felt that, oh, very old man. And then later, I became 16 years old myself. And I discovered the age of one of the teachers, who was 63. No, 33. And again, extremely deep sense of uneasiness came to me, thinking that, so this teacher, once upon a time, was as young as I am today. And then went through having modern education, college, and settled into life. Now already 33, very old. Then I became 33 myself. 33 and 34, 5, 36, 35, I think. 35, I was sent to Cambridge University. I was in Cambridge University, then there was a group of people to host my visit there in Cambridge University. There was one professor, just 2-3 days ago, he celebrated his 50th birth anniversary. And in my mind, what is there to celebrate? It's 10 that you're old, 50, half a century gone. I didn't say anything. And then gradually I hit 40s. I was invited by one vice chancellor of a university, not here in Cambridge, in India, for a meal. And there was another lady professor, very senior lady professor. And the vice chancellor must have informed the lady professor that I'm expecting the new director of Tibetan House, Delhi. And I showed up, and the lady professor, she already knew about my predecessor, the former director of Tibetan House, Delhi, and who was already in his late 60s or early 70s. And when I showed up, she just looked at me and said that, young director, So I was, as a 12 years old boy, seeing someone who was 16 as very old. Now somebody is describing me as a young director. She said it 2 times. And suddenly she just got a sense that only wasn't okay. He must have felt the offended. Offended in ways that young means it can have another connotation, inexperienced. She said, no, young in age. Okay, so what I'm saying is that this is life. This is life. So now, if this is how we lead a life, then what's the purpose? This is a very serious question, and I would say sometimes these questions can turn out to be very gloomy, and at the same time, this is reality. So what I'm suggesting is that it is very important for us to contemplate at this stage, what's the purpose of life? And if you're already embarked on this journey of exploring what the purpose of life is all about, yes, well and good. Otherwise, still, usually what I say is that although you may be 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, whatever age, you are still, don't give up. You are the youngest of the lifespan that you're left with. How many agree with me, hands? You're the youngest today out of the lifespan that you're left with. Presents, how many agree with me? Yes, you are the youngest today. So why don't you use this youth, the youngest stage of your life, that whatever is left, very meaningfully, productively. This is something which I like to share with you. So with this in mind, we come to realize, and then let us take a few seconds to just think of what the purpose of life is. So let's say I am already in my late 50s, and each one of us, whatever age, whatever is your age, think of that and see what did I do thus far, and what's the purpose of my life with whatever the time that I'm left with. Just know that take a few seconds, take a moment to think about that, and perhaps I may ask a question to you in a while. Just know that what's the purpose of my life? Okay, why I'm saying this is that to talk about the shared values across cultures. Shared values, these are extremely important concepts. The World War I, World War II, with these experiences of the human civilization, we see that the human beings have really developed out of the experiences we had, very dire and very painful experiences we had from World War I, II, and so forth. So we have matured. We have reached a great level of maturity. But at the same time, we are also sometimes going down the lane. For example, you see the world today. What's happening? The American-Israel-Iran war, and everywhere in the world, we see that we are going down the lane. This is very unfortunate. So with this in mind, what I'm saying is that what's the purpose of life? If you really contemplate on that, then you will not only have a sense of the purpose of one's own life, but about the shared values across the cultures, across the board of the humanity. So having said this, in fact, yesterday and today, just going around London and in the tubes, and also on the bus, in the car, seeing the people, I think that do people really have time to contemplate on these questions? What's the purpose of my life? So this is a very serious point, and if you are interested in this part, you see that your life is very beautiful. So from this, the most likely, in fact, usually in my talks, I begin with this question, and then I ask people to give their thoughts. What do you think is the purpose of life? So, oftentimes, if there are 100 people, 100 there, no doubt there's going to be minimum like 20, 30 different answers. And you may think that, okay, it can be very fluid, it can be, the answer can be very divergent. But in actuality, if you ask the second question, for example, somebody may say that, okay, just to pay the bills, and survive, or to make sure that the family is well taken care of, or good health, or some adventures once in a while. So, although we see the answers as divergent, but if I ask the same question, why the family, why the adventure, why the music, why today the football? If I ask the same question, why, then they all will boil down to the same point. That is, that makes me happy. So we see the broad speaking, we see the purpose of life, and I would highly suggest that each one of us, so given that I don't have much time, I'm going to give the answers, the normal answers which most of the people give, and then you concentrate on this later on to see if it makes sense. So with this in mind, the thing is that people are seeking to somehow people are seeking to get away from miseries and to expand their happiness. This is what we are seeking. This is the reality. So having said this, the happiness and the happiness that we are seeking and the miseries that we shun, the question is that how do they happen? This question. So to this, what was suggest is that the physics, modern physics, particularly, okay, so if you are not from physics background, don't worry too much. I'm just bringing these concepts to make some sense to what I'm sharing with you. In fact, quantum mechanics talks about what is known as the concept of the randomness. And Albert Einstein, when speaking about the relativity theory, he said that there's no room for randomness. He doesn't agree with the randomness. He supported his position by saying that the whole universe is operating based on the physical law of cause and effect. Let me repeat it. The whole universe is operating based on the physical law of cause and effect. So, and then the Buddha, 2,500 years ago, what the Buddha taught is the whole universe is operating based on the cause and effect. The word physical, because the physical means it's confined to the physical body, physical world, and the Buddha, they explains the science of mind. So mind is also included. To include the mind, the Buddha took out this word, physical, to incorporate not only physical, but also the mind. So the Buddha taught the whole universe is operating based on the law of cause and effect. And according to physics, the whole universe is operating based on the physical law of cause and effect, which means that, in simple terms, what it says is that if you want to enjoy mangoes, don't plant bitter gourd. If you plant bitter gourd, don't expect mangoes to grow. If you want mangoes, plant mango seeds. So mango seeds, mango seeds are the causes. Mango seeds are the causes which can only give rise to mangoes, whereas the bitter gourd seeds are the causes for the bitter gourds, not for the mangoes. So this is the meaning of these, as per Albert Einstein, whole universe is operating based on the physical law of cause and effect. Whereas for Buddha, so he added one more, whole universe based on operating based on the law of cause and effect. So cause and effect is very important. This is the mechanism with which we can expect to acquire what we are seeking. So the question of what's the purpose of life? In other words, what are you seeking? This question. And some may say that I'm seeking money, I'm seeking wealth, I'm seeking to pay the bills, or I'm seeking to buy a house. So why do we need a house? Oh, for me to live. So why do you need to live? This is instinctive aspiration, desire to live. So in this connection, now it takes us to with the broader understanding of cause and effect, it takes us to the understanding that that happiness that we are seeking and that the suffering that we are thinking of getting rid of is all about our emotional states, So on the emotional level, the question arises that can we really have 100% happiness? Or before that, my question to you would be that, so by the way, how many agree with me that yes, in fact, whatever I'm seeking is related to my own happiness and related to getting rid of my miseries. Even working for others, I feel happy. Working for myself, it makes me happy. So some people may say that, okay, working for myself is very selfish. Make others happy, that makes me happy. Is again related to your happiness. So what I'm saying is that all in all, what we're seeking is to have happiness together with miseries. The next question is that what degree of happiness that are we seeking? What degree? This question. Okay, anyone? What degree of happiness are you seeking? 10%? 40%? 30%? 80? 90? Anyone?
100%.
100%.
100%.
100%. And some say, okay, 90% is good. 10% suffering, misery, for me to appreciate the 90% happiness. Some people say like this. So joking, I say that in the retreat settings, I tell them that, okay, if you're seeking 90%, not 100%, then your breakfast cut to appreciate the lunch and dinner. So they said that no, this is not, I cannot accept this, which means you are seeking 100% happiness. The next question is, can we achieve that? So what is very important is that whatever we say and whatever we think, whatever we learn, make sure that it is rational. It should be rational. It should not be based on blind faith. Because the blind faith, if we based our living based on blind faith, it can be very dangerous. So there's no room for blind faith, and which means that whatever we do, whatever we think, whatever we say, it should be rational. You should know why. What's the purpose? To see a direct relationship between what you're doing and what you're seeking. So in this connection, the question is, can we have 100% happiness? Or is it that the miseries can be brought to zero? This question. To this, let us listen to what the Buddha has to say and what Charles Darwin has to say. Charles Darwin, it was 2008 that the Office of His Holiness the Dalai Lama sent me to America to work with Professor Paul Ekman. The Professor Paul, who passed away, I think this year or last year, he passed away. And Professor Paul Ekman, he's a renowned psychologist, and in fact, he is expert in what's known as microfacial reading science of microfacial reading. So he's expert. He's a pioneer of the science, and he was being hired by the CAI or CIA. What is that?
CIA.
CIA. He was hired by CIA because they have to detect the terrorist. Well, terrorists never say that I'm terrorist. So you have to know who the terrorist is, who is not. So he used to train the soldiers, the policemen, to identify the terrorists by looking at the microfacial, by learning the skill in reading the microfacial expressions. So he interviewed His Holiness within a span of like 3-4 years and spent about total 54 hours interviewing of His Holiness. And he was compiling these interviews in the form of a book. And he compiled it fully. And then he requested His Holiness office to send somebody to review the book to make sure that His Holiness's voice is reflected accurately. So for that purpose, I was sent in, and I was with him for 5 days, and he was so kind. He entertained me so well all the 5 evenings, and one evening was meeting with his psychologist colleagues. And he asked me to introduce myself and talk a little bit about Buddhist psychology, and I talked about emotions, and I shared with them how our sadness, our pains, painful tears, or anxiety, anguish, they all can be brought to zero. So this was what I shared. And once one lady psychologist just raised her hand and told me that, but this is not possible, which means 100% happiness is not possible, because she justified this by saying that Charles Darwin, according to Charles Darwin's evolutionary theory, the basic emotions such as attachment, anger, and fear, these are the emotions which we cannot get rid of, for the reason that, number one, that they are instincts. Number two, we require them for our survival of the fittest. So we require these emotions to survive, to be the fittest, to survive. And then she further justified this by saying that attachment, if you don't have attachment, then you will not put effort to gather the conducive factors for your survival. If you don't have anger, you will not put effort to get into those threats or those which are non-conducive or which are discordant factors for your survival. And if you don't have fear, then for example, a lion comes to
reach is not available.
a lion comes, and if you have no fear, you will not run away. Then the lion can easily eat you up, mull you up, and you're gone. Your species will just terminate. So we require these emotions. These emotions, number one, they're instinct. Number two, we require them for survival. As long as you have the fear, we are not 100% happy. Okay, so this is the justification. Now the next question is what the Buddha has to say. And the Buddha's approach, of course, is extremely rational. At the same time, Buddha encourages us never to follow blindly. So what the Buddha has to say, these emotions, are these discussed in the Buddhist psychology? The answer is yes, very much so. For the reason that for the Buddha's teachings is also referred to as the science of mind. So it's all about the mind, the emotions. The next question is that what the Buddha has to say about these emotions, which according to Charles Darwin are number one instinct, and that the instincts are number two, that they are required for survival. So what the Buddha has to say on this, the first point, are the instincts? The Buddha will say 100% yes, these are instincts. These are instincts. And the very precise terminology used in the Buddhist parlance is the innate. Instead of the word instinct, the word used is innate, but they do have the same connotation. Innate affections or innate emotions. And point number two, do we require them for your survival? In fact, if you look at how like 8 billion human beings today, even in the realm of the animals, we see that what Charles has said is really operating on minimum 99.9%. What Charles has said is true. For the reason that people live just using these tools, emotional tools, attachment, anger, and the jealousy and the fear. These are the tools for survival. That's what we see. But are these really required for survival? Then Buddha said, no, we don't require them. Because, say, many people, the anger and the fear, while these are meant, while these people, they resort to these emotions for the survival, but these tools themselves, these emotional tools themselves become the tool to kill them. I remember a very close friend of mine who was extremely short-tempered, and he was younger than me. And when I meet him, and of course I cannot tell him directly, don't be short-tempered. I cannot tell him directly. I was very skillfully trying to say that, okay, tone down your emotions, tone down. Okay, don't be too stressful, don't take unnecessary stress, just let go of things. Actually, I was telling him not to be short-tempered. And then at one point he had to open heart surgery. And that was during the time of COVID, when we at the peak of the COVID. And I thought that he was doing good. And then those days, during COVID time, even the family members, they cannot go to meet them. If they don't come, finish. It was so very, very sad moment for me that I may not be able to see him ever again. And miraculously, he came out of the COVID. It's amazing. He came out of COVID and his surgery was so successful and he was sent back to his house. I went to see him. And I didn't tell him anything. Deep inside me, I was just telling in my mind, telling him that I told you to tone down your anger. And before I said, he told me, yes, Geshe-la, you are right. You've been warning me since long time ago to tone down my emotions. And when I had to go through the open heart surgery, then I remember that your words were reverberating in my ears. And then he was getting better, again short-tempered. Oh boy. And then he passed away. He died. So what I'm saying is that these emotions, while many people they resort to these emotions for their survival, but these emotions which they think will be the tool for the survival can turn out to be the factors or the tool to kill themselves. So this is what the Buddha said. So these have so much of side effects. Instead, there is another way. There's the alternative way which will make you survive without any side effect. This the Buddha called as the skillful compassion. Skillful compassion. This is very important. With skillful compassion, well, number one, with the compassion, your mind is always at peace and very calm. With skillfulness, others cannot take advantage of your compassion. People cannot take you for a ride. People cannot abuse your compassion. So, skillful compassion. This is what the Buddha provided as an option for survival. Very effective way of survival without having to resort to the means which will otherwise be very destructive on your health. So, this point, the skillful compassion. Buddhism mind the 0.3 million years ago, 0.3 million years ago, when the Homo sapiens first came to planet Earth, 0.3 million years ago. So there, who was talking about compassion? Who was talking about emotions and so forth? They were just instinctively fighting for the survival, hunting. And animals, they eat them, or they also eat them. So this is a very primitive way of survival. Nobody's talking about emotions and so forth. and then they say that emotions they do exist. So these emotions, if we think very carefully, we see that the Homo sapiens, 0.3 million years ago or 300,000 years ago, and then before that, Homo erectus. So you keep tracking back in time, and you see that 4 billion years ago, the first unicellular organism came out of the water. Water came on planet Earth, and the unicellular organism, the first unicellular organism, that was our first ancestor. So from there till today, in the era of time, we see that the emotions, they gradually developed. It took 4 billion years to develop to such a sophisticated emotions. The emotion that we have today is very sophisticated, extremely sophisticated. So this Charles Darwin says that these are the instincts, because that it took 4 billion years. For example, like when we grow older, say if there's a young boy or young man or young girl, who may be like 20 years, and somebody like my age, almost hitting 60, and if they thinking pattern, so if the thinking pattern is very similar and a little negative, and of course we can expect the younger one too, if you train the person, teach the person, show good examples, the person will change. But somebody who's older like my age, for us to expect that person to change, this is most unlikely, because I'm used to this way of thinking for the last like 60 years. Whereas the young one is used to this thing only for the last 4 years, 5 years. So it's more easy to bring about change. Well, so what I'm saying is the instant means within the span of like 4 billion years, such a long period of time that we acquire these emotions. So we cannot really remove them. This is what Charles Darwin said. So with this, the question is that then the Buddha said that this can be changed. We can transform this. Yes, there's an alternative way known as skillful compassion. So how do we do that? What are the solutions or what are the methods the Buddha taught to get into the destructive emotions and replace them with what is known as the skillful compassion? So in this connection, I'd like to say and to give you what is known as introduce you to a very simple Buddhist psychology, a concept taken from Buddhist psychology, very simple one, and yet extremely useful. Say that our mind, how the mind works. Today, the neuroscientists, what they talk about the mind is extremely gross, and in fact, the neuroscientists, they're not really keen to speak about the mind. They're more keen to speak about the neurons, the synaptic connections, and of course the brain, nervous system, the various parts of the brain, and how the signals were transmitted from one neuron to the other neuron, and where the brain waves and so forth. So they are more keen on that part. They are not really keen on the mind per se. At one point, the neuroscientists, they were trying to incorporate the mind, which they call as a qualia. And later they dropped this idea because the modern science, the rigor, the strength of the modern science, this is very important. Strength of the modern science lies in the rigor of modern science. Rigor means something which is quantifiable, something which can be proven with experiments, something which the third person can replicate the same experience, the same experiment, whereas the mind is not at all tangible, because of which it's not quantifiable, and it cannot be replicated by a third person. So, given that these are the things, these are the limitations for the modern science, to incorporate the concept of the mind, so that they drop it at the moment. If you read Professor Eric Kandel, his book, Professor Eric Kandel, his book, that was actually very fortunate that you encountered with Professor Paul Ekman. He got a sense that I was very young, 34, 35, when I was with him and in America working on that book. And he just pointed to the book by Professor Eric Kandel, and who was Nobel laureate in 2004 in physiology or medicine. And his contribution is on memory, the workings of the memory. And he said that, Dorji, this book is good for you. And I picked this up, and he said, take it, you will like it. I read it, and this is really, really a remarkable book. Today, if I Google search the best book on the mind and the brain, this book will come up first, the first in the list. In Search of Memory, this is the book. And reading this, we see that he made the statement that he made two broad statements. The first one is that the neuroscientists today don't accept mind. They only believe in the brain. First hypothesis. Second hypothesis, that even if mind is there, it is a derivative product, or it is an emergent property of the brain. It is not the distinct entity from the brain. So this, and he said that these two are the two main hypotheses for the YP, the current neuroscientists, and that's true. That's true. So what I'm saying is that I personally will say that modern science is an extremely rigorous system, but it doesn't mean that it explains everything. This is something when you remember. For example, physics is extremely rigorous system, but it does not explain neuroscience. Neuroscience today is an extremely sophisticated system, but it does not explain the elementary particles, the behavioral quantum mechanics. It doesn't explain quantum mechanics. So what I'm saying is that modern science, while it is so rigorous a system, at the same time, it doesn't mean that it explains everything. So if you think that science explains everything, or something's not proven scientifically, and if somebody means it, then the person's thinking can be a little naive with respect to the reality. The reality is so broad. Reality, there are three levels of reality. One is the evident reality, like the flower that we are here in this hall, and the sound flows in the form of the waves. So these are the realities, evident reality. Number two, this is what is known as a slightly hidden reality, slightly hidden phenomena. For example, like say that my hand is made of atoms, electrons, protons, quarks. But like 200, 300 years ago, 400 years ago, people explain about, okay, the material things are made of the solid particles known as atoms. But what is an atom? What is an atom? People just don't really have an idea of what it is like. So they have their own description of what the atom is like. And gradually this concept of the structure of the atom also kept evolving. So the concept that we have of what atom is constituted of today, it was totally non-existent like 340 years ago. So with this, what I'm saying is that science is evolving, is an evolving system. It keeps evolving. And for example, physics with the advent of quantum mechanics and relativity, this whole paradigm shift of physics from classical Newtonian physics to the quantum mechanics and relativity theory. This whole paradigm shift. And if somebody were to talk about quantum mechanics at the time of Newton, people think this is not physics, it's pure philosophy. But today, this whole paradigm shift, and this is seen as pure physics. Not only physics, this most respected the human development with respect to physics till date. And so likewise with the brain and the mind, yes, of course, again the same thing, that thus far the modern neuroscience, they couldn't really handle or they couldn't really touch the mind as such. Mind is a non-tangible entity. And later we never know. There can be a whole paradigm shift, even in neuroscience, where the mind can be included. Because now it is advancing to such a stage that the whole dictionary is being created to explain what the mind is based on the brain functions. Whole dictionary is created. It doesn't mean that the mind is a brain or brain is a mind. It doesn't mean that. Dictionary means these two are not 100% the same identity or same entity. These two are different. Because of this, the link is made by the dictionary to say, okay, this movement of the brain, this part of the brain is activated. So what is this indicative of on the mental level? Then you go to the dictionary, because this per se is for the mind. So you have to refer to dictionary. Dictionary is being created nowadays. Okay, so this is a little bit of the digression. Now the point is that because that is all about the emotions, and the Buddha taught that we can have 100% happiness and our miseries can be brought to zero. This is absolute the reality. But Shazan disagrees with this. So, if I ask this question to you, do you think that 100% happiness is possible? That your miseries, that your pains can be brought to zero? Do you think it's possible? What do you think?
Maybe not.
Okay. So, how many of you will say no? I don't think so. Present? Yes. And how many of you will say that? Okay, may not be dislike.
Yes.
Or how many will say that? Oh, I'm not too sure. I'm not too sure. Okay. So in other words, what I'm saying here is that these questions are very serious questions, and I would say, if you can really explore these questions, your life will become extremely beautiful, and you see that then now I see a purpose in my living. And then it's also very important that your children, they are seeing that what you're doing is something very different. Your children also will also pick up these traits from you to explore the purpose of life, while not neglecting your life, while not neglecting your survival. So then the question, so to this, the Buddha would be very happy if if the Buddha said yes, and the 100% happiness is possible, yes, then it must be possible. No, don't follow like this. If you follow like this is a blind faith. So Buddha would be very unhappy if you follow blindly. So in fact, it was the 2003, when I was in Cambridge University, and it was, well, I would say that this was my exposure to outside world for the first time, and it was a great experience for me to be meeting with many professors, particularly physicists, and it was a great experience. So there I used to meet with physicists. Particularly there was one physicist who was extremely brilliant. And of course he's not trained in logic, but his way of thinking is extremely purely logical. And the people find it so difficult to talk to him, because you talk to him in 2 sentences, he will say that there's internal contradiction in what you say. And people become so hesitant to talk to him, so that they feel intimidated by him. Just he comes and people will just evade. So we started to have a discussion, and then at one point he said that in this world only physics is education, and he's very dominating. Only physics is education. Okay, anyone from physics background presents? Anybody from, according to him, Anyone from education background? Because you should be from physics. For him. Only physics education. For example, Chola he's from chemistry. You're topper in school. Okay. So, and he said that in this world, only physics is education. I said, why? He said that, he replied, because it is only physics which allows you to have critical thinking. All others are imitation of the earlier teachers. Then I said, okay, then good. Wait to listen to what the Buddha has to say. And then I cited Buddha, who said, bhikshus and wise people, just as a goldsmith tests the purity of the gold by cutting, rubbing, and burning the gold, you should also examine my words and put them to practice, not simply because you respect me. And he remained silent for a few seconds. And he said, oh, the Buddha must have been a great physicist. Okay, so with this mind, this should be an approach. We should be very rational in our thinking. So the point is that how can we change our mind from being, let's say that as I said earlier, the anger, how can I change this anger to compassion? How can I change this fear into fearlessness? How can I change this attachment to the universal selfless compassion? How can I change this? According to Buddha, it's possible, 100% possible. It's there. So before this, because this takes me to the next point, that I'm sure that you will all agree with me that if I squeeze a handful of sand, no oil comes out. Whereas if I squeeze a handful of sunflower seeds, oil does come out. What's the difference? Anyone? Quick. Realize the difference. It's very simple. You know the answer. Just make me happy. Tell me. Very quickly. Quick. Yes.
Oil is already in the sunflower.
In the sunflower seeds, already there's the oil, or the potential for the oil is there. Whereas in the sand, there's no potential for oil. As simple as that. Likewise, if we are to really experience 100% happiness, there should be the seed of the 100% happiness within us. If we don't have this seed, no matter how much effort we put in, it's just pointless, it's useless. Because there's no seed there, however much effort that you put to squeeze the handful of sand, no, don't expect oil to come out. So like, do you have the potential for the 100% happiness? This is a question. So the Buddha said yes. Answer is 100% yes. And how do we know this question? How do we know this? So to say no is not possible. That's the easiest answer, yet it will hamper our growth. You will never think. But if you say yes, it's possible, then the person will most times ask the question, how is it possible? When you ask how, you have to think. It makes you think. When you think, you grow. We grow and we think. So therefore, the Buddha advises us to think more. So therefore, in the Buddha's teachings, we see that there's a tremendous emphasis on studies. So let me say that, okay, let's say that to transform your emotions from anger to compassion, or from fear to fearlessness, to transform your emotions. Let's say that it's amazing. You tell me the answer when I ask you the question. Say you say that, okay, what is today? What day is today? Thursday. So Thursday, I'm tired of my work, I'm tired of my colleagues, or particularly this person, I'm tired of him, seeing his face. It makes me so tired. So today I'm going to have a short break to listen to a talk happening here, and you came here. And your friend also is tired of you. Also is looking forward to the talk, not for the talk, just to get rest from you. And you sit here, or some talk happening, and you're meditating, and suddenly your colleague also passes by. He does not see you. The moment you see your colleague, instantly your heart starts to palpitate. What happened? He does not see you. He does not say anything. Physically, verbally, he does not do anything to you. But your heart is, you are in your stressing mode. Why this stress? My question to you. What triggered this stress? Anyone, quick. He did not say anything. He does not even see you. But the stress is already in he or she. Why? Anyone, quick. Yes.
It's the thought of him.
Sorry?
It's the thought
The
of him.
thought of him. What do you mean by thought?
Anger.
It's not just a thought, because even in the absence of this person, you can think of that person. Oh, I'm free from this person, right? That thought is there. But it doesn't make you to have your heart to palpitate. So here, there's a visual operating. Your eye consciousness sees that person. And then your thought process is activated. He's again here. Again, he's here. So, look. So this thought process, what's your name?
Ronnie.
Ronnie. As Ronnie said, that this thought process is responsible to give rise to the stress within us. So what's the relationship in this? The thought process and the stress. Stress to the level of the physiological changes happen. Heart palpitation happens, your sweating happens. So what's the relationship between the thought process and the person does not say anything? If the person says something nasty, then that's a different story. Or the person hits you, that's a different story. But if the person does not even see you, and already physiologically you're reacting, and this is stress. So how is this stress related to your thought process and your perception? This is a very serious question. So therefore here, what the Buddha taught is that, he said, okay, okay, let's say this is a flower. This is a flower. And it says some people, when they see flower, after this, the person who you don't like, your heart palpitates, and then I just show you this flower, it just cools your mind. It calms your mind. Again, the flower has this effect to calm your mind. What is happening? So this is some thought processes or some mental activities involved where it translates into the physiological reactions. So what's happening? So here, just if you agree with me, the flower is the object and my mind is the subject. So there's an interaction between the object and the subject. Something's happening, the interaction is happening. This interaction makes your physiology to react. This is what is happening. Okay, that's amazing. So the object and your mind interacts. There's interaction happening and there's a physiological reaction happening. So sometimes the physiological reaction can be very positive. Seeing the flower, your mind feels the calmness. Go into the wilderness, you feel the calmness. Go to the ocean, you feel the calmness. You meet your relatives or very good friends, you feel the calmness. You meet with somebody who you dislike, your heart starts palpitating. So look, different reactions happen depending what kind of perception takes place. So there's a connection, link between the perception or the mental activity and your physiological reaction. So physiological reaction, they manifest in form of what is known as a stress or calming down the stress. So what is really happening? This is very important. Given that I don't have much time, I'm going to quickly explain what is known as the 5 functions of the mind. What is happening is that this is very important. If you learn this, then you'll realize that this is amazing. The mind, wherever there's a mind, you're happy, unhappy, cognitively extremely smart, or cognitively really dull, or stable mind, or unstable mind, whatever. When there's a mind, there are 5 activities minimum happening together. The 5 activities. Okay, let's say 5 activities. Let me give you the example of. Okay. The first is the contact. Number 2 is the attention. Number 3 is discrimination. Number 4 is feeling. Number 5 is intention. 5. What is first? Contact. Number 2, attention. Number 3, discrimination. Number 4, feeling. Number 5, intention. Okay, let me quickly explain based on these 5 functions. And if you feel interested, then you can go into more detail, like 11 functions, 6 functions, 20 functions, and so forth. They are all put in different sets. And then you see that you gain command of your own mind, and then you will know how to manage your emotions so effectively that even under the most dire situation, you can still control your emotions because you know how the mind works. Okay, so let's say that we are all sleeping in our own respective homes, and you start to dream of attending this class. You start to dream of attending this class, and in the class, I pick this up. Okay, let's say, let's put it like this. Say, usually you get alert. Okay, Azala, if I may ask you, what time you usually get up?
Depends.
Okay, depends. Let's say 6. Let's say 6 a.m. And your mom, or let's say your mom, one day just opens the door. It's 5 a.m. and says, "Good morning, happy birthday to you." You happy, not happy? Happy, not happy? You look at what does she have to give me? So your mom is holding something like this, a black box. You are still in half sleep. Because of this, your eyes come in. What's the first? Don't forget. What's second? Attention. What is third? Discrimination. What is fourth? Feeling. What is the fifth? Intention. Don't forget this. So first, happy birthday to you, right? Oh, what must be the present that my mom has? Is there any present? And you look at the mother's hands, you see something there, a dark box. So you come in contact with, your mind comes in contact with the object the mother is holding, contact. And then because you are half asleep, what will you do? You don't see too clearly. What will you do? You will rub your eyes. Why you are rubbing your eyes? To pay attention. To pay focused attention.
Yeah.
What is it? Attention. Then what is next? Discrimination. It is
iPhone.
brand new iPhone 17 Pro Max. What's next? Feeling. What feeling do you get? Pleasant, unpleasant. But a pleasant feeling comes. You like this pleasant feeling, you don't like this pleasant feeling. You like this pleasant feeling. Because you like this pleasant feeling, you'll try to extend the pleasant feeling. How to extend pleasant feeling? By holding the trigger of the pleasant feeling. What's the trigger of the pleasant feeling? Brand new iPhone 17 Pro Max. So what is next?
Intention.
Intention. your intention will make your hands to go to the iPhone to grab it. Is embracing the mobile. Okay, then you get it. You get it, and you realize it's a piece of chocolate. You realize it's just a piece of chocolate. What you do? You'll throw this chocolate. You get it anytime. So you throw this. Mom, don't waste my time. Don't. Why you are bothering me? Why you are spoiling my sleep? Okay. So what happens? Again, you come in contact with the chocolate. You discover it's not really mobile. It's something else. Then you pay the attention. Is it really mobile or chocolate? And discrimination, yes, it is a chocolate. And then feeling,
Feeling.
unpleasant feeling. Do you like that? You like the unpleasant feeling? You don't like it. You don't like the unpleasant feeling. You want to remove the unpleasant feeling. How do you remove the unpleasant feeling? By removing the trigger of the unpleasant feeling. What's the trigger of the unpleasant feeling? The chocolate. So your intention will throw the chocolate. Your intention to throw the chocolate will happen. Okay, so this is how the mind works. Now, if you feel how many at times you have expressed anger, resentment, anger, shown anger. Yes. So when anger happens, what is happening is look, attention, the say first, the contact, attention, discrimination, something which is not nice, unpleasant feeling. Then the mind will push that trigger. So this push at times you can actually push, at times you cannot push. For example, like your boss. If your boss is somebody who does not like you, your mind will try to push. Physically you cannot push, but you have to be under the boss. So your mind will continue, keep pushing. Pushing means you're consuming lots of energy. So this is known as stress. Where the mind consumes a lot of energy, this is known as stress. And if the stress, if the consumption of energy or the pushing, if it's intense, this is anxiety. And if it is prolonged, extended, it is depression. So therefore, if you want to come out of the depression or anxiety, what should we do? We should change the intention of pushing to embrace. How to change it? By change the feeling from unpleasant feeling to the pleasant feeling. How to change the feeling? By changing discrimination. How to change the discrimination? To have information which you give in contact with and to pay attention to. That information must be broad, profound and accurate. So if the information is broad, profound, accurate, for example, His Holiness the Dalai Lama, no matter what external factors, how difficult the situation is, he must always keep calm. His mind cannot be wavered by any external factors because his contact and attention, discrimination, these are so rich, very profound, rich, so that his feeling is never perturbed. And because the feeling is so peaceful, pleasant, the mind never rejects, mind embraces all the time. So, therefore, to have the correct information for the contact and the attention, correct information, complete information, and systematic information is required for us to have the pleasant feeling, for us to have the mind embrace rather than push. Then when you see that it is happening on the larger, when you're in the community, say, I want maximum happiness means your mind should embrace everybody. So with this, then across the culture, across the board of humanity, so there you should have rich cognitive thought processes, complete, systematic, and correct information, cognitive thought processes, so that you can interact with as many beings across the cultures, so that the relationship becomes so cordial. There's no conflict. Instead, there's a harmony coming to being. So this psychology is extremely beneficial and helpful for your, first of all, your own healing, and then your family members, when they see that happening on you, when they see that this actually happening to you, there's such a transformation happening to you, then this is how you can influence it. And this is how you can then on a larger scale, on a more profound, high level scale, like on the level of the diplomacy and so forth, this would be extremely beneficial. Okay, so I stop here, and I know that we have question answer.
Yes, we do. Please join me in thanking Damula and Secretary. Now we're going to open the floor to question and answers. So if you have a question, if you could raise your hand, I'll walk around with the microphone.
Just feel free to ask any questions. When I say any question, it doesn't mean that I have all the answers. You can get, because the questions, they are very precious. Any question is very precious. Yes.
Thank you very much, Your Reverence. My name is Rani Singh, and I really enjoyed this hour with you and your words. Which years were you the official interpreter for His Holiness? Because I know that position is really important, and His Holiness depends on the interpreter.
Okay, that's interesting. So is it that His Holiness is dependent on the translator, particularly English translator? My answer would be no. Because His Holiness English is already so good. I learned more from His Holiness than His Holiness, that my presence making contribution to this. So this is reality. And then you may go wondering which year, how did you become the translator? I would say it's purely accidental. There's nothing great in me. It's purely accidental that I put the translator with Holiness at that point. Because to be the particularly in English, as an English translator, what you require is one, you should have good command of the Buddhist philosophy. Number two, you should have, of course, naturally, some command of the English. This is also required. And those people who have incredibly great command of the English, they don't have exposure to Buddhist philosophy. Those who are expert in Buddhist philosophy, they don't have the English. So therefore, those mediocre people, they get this opportunity. I'm one of them.
Yeah, because I interviewed His Holiness a few times.
With the year, it was since 2004 through to 2009.
Yes, that was before I interviewed him. And I saw the relationship between His Holiness and the official interpreter became almost like an intellectual discussion, as you say, discussing the point of Buddhism and how best to portray it to the interviewer like me. So
In
thank
fact,
you.
His Holiness is not only Buddhist, His Holiness is versatile. It's just amazing. Science, quantum physics, ecology, neuroscience, and relativity theory. He discusses on all these topics, not only Buddhist philosophy.
Thank you.
Well, okay, here.
Gisela, I want to ask one very practical question. So my question is how to overcome unhappiness, right? Something like war, natural disasters, or passing away loved ones. Why I'm asking this question is like recently Lobga, the Tibetan activists self-regulated in front of United Nations headquarters. On 2nd July. So after that, when I'm checking my phone, or like all the social medias, YouTube, everywhere, it's coming again and again. So that like it's so difficult to face this, and also so difficult. Like it's not only like 1 or 2 days. It's like now 1 week. It's coming again and again. So how to overcome? How to think about these situations?
Okay, this is a very practical question as well as very serious question. Yes, this can happen to us anytime to anybody at any place. So how to manage such situations? You're right. So what I would suggest is that the say for a child, for a young child to be separated from the mother, even for 2 hours, 3 hours, the child cannot bear, cannot contain the pain. Whereas for the mother, deliberately the mother sends a child for education, for the studies and so forth. Because the mother could see beyond today. Child could see only today. They couldn't see what's beyond today. So when we see such things like the logos and sacrifice, we try to see beyond. Rejoice that there's such a courageous person, amazing courageous person who is not like impulsive reaction, but properly planned. Only very courageous person can do that. Impulsively, anybody can do that. But with a proper plan and then give your life for an incredibly great cause, only courageous people and wise people can do that. So just rejoice in such action, and that they say from your side, what can I do? For example, this young man, I know him like 10 years ago, that he through an initiative started a Tibetan college students union. He started. So amazing. This is an initiative not anybody can take. There's only few people can take such responsibilities. So just see how to take this. You have initiated this work, and now it's even being continued, even though you already moved to UK, do your own research and so forth. But your legacy is still continued by the younger Tibetan boys and girls. So just see how to inspire others as much as what you did and what Goparanjan did. Just try to inspire others, but not to, not to be impulsive. And Goparanjan, he did not act impulsively. He acted with such, the proper plan, strategy, courage, all involved there. So, with this in mind, for example, the one thing that I always tell the young Tibetan boys and girls in India is that, okay, you just protest on the 10th of March, and then you just lose your voice because of protest. It's good, but on a daily basis, say make sure that your protest is heard by as many people. So I tell that if you protest physically, verbally, you do that, how many people can hear your voice? 10, 15, 50, 100, maximum 100. But if you complete your PhD, if you really outshine in your studies, in political science, or whatever area, you outshine in your studies, or you really stand out, and people will come to interview you. You don't have to go there to please interview me. People will come to interview you. You sit in a cozy room and you raise your voice for 6 million Tibetans and if possible 8 billion human beings. You raise your voice, this will be heard by millions because that you are known everywhere because of your qualities being nurtured and exposed to the outside world. So therefore, I tell the young boys and girls that make sure that you don't waste your life. Study well. This is the greatest thing that you bring of service to the humanity, to the Tibetan cause, and to His Holiness. You study well, and what you're going to say, 5 minutes of what you're going to say is going to be heard by like hundreds of thousands, perhaps millions. But if we don't study on a day-to-day basis, you just waste your life, waste your time. And then 10 March, then you're in the street. So it lasts only for one day, not only one day, just few hours, finish, it disappears in the thin air. Whereas you study well, become someone who's outstanding, and then people will come to interview you. Social media will come to interview you. You will be heard by millions. So this is something that you need to inspire the other, young people. So when you feel that yes, I'm fulfilling my duty, then sense of the accomplishment comes. When sense of accomplishment comes, what happens? Happy hormones flow in your mind instead of these stressful hormones. Instead of stress hormones, happy hormones will flow. That makes you even more the courageous, even more outreaching. Thank you.
Vidya, thank you very much for the presentation. I have a question. You started with the question of what's the purpose of life? And the answer is everybody wants to be happy. Then you gave the example of the 5 factors of the mind. I found this very interesting in terms of the chocolate book example. My question is that the person who saw the chocolate didn't feel happy is because the person has expectation. It's the present or whatever the mother had in the hand is more than chocolate. So it's actually not chocolate per se, is the trigger of disappointment, but rather the
Expectation.
Yes, expectation.
Okay, so there are multiple factors. So the example that I give is the simplest example, which everybody agrees, and then say 1 and 2 plus 3 equals 5. Then you should be able to do 25 plus 8 is 33. You should be able to say that. So I give a simple example, you should be able to extend it to more complicated issues. Next question.
Oh, how was that asked?
I give the simple example. With the simple example, you should be able to take it to more sophisticated ones. Expectation is another factor. Okay, more questions? Okay, one here. Okay. Yes.
Just thank you for
Your name?
Bugin.
Ugyana.
Yeah.
Yes.
Very interesting and informative talk. My question is, I suppose, quite relevant to the modern day and age. Growing up, we all talk about compassion, karma, interdependence, and everything. And it's quite easy to understand or try to practice when everyone believes that you are sort of living in an insulated world, and where you've got guidance from teachers and parents who are sort of have a kind of principle of ethics and stuff like that. But growing up over the last couple of years, everyone's come across things on the social media and stuff, like atrocities happening in the world. Tibetans are facing atrocities as well, not just in one part, everywhere. And it seems to be ongoing, never seems to be ending. And then a lot of people questioning, does karma exist? If it is, like, where is it? So how does one navigate such a chaotic world to practice compassion? Obviously, it's easy to practice compassion for the ones that are facing the brunt of the kind of, whatever is happening. But as a Buddhist, we believe in compassion for every sentient being, and that involves the abuses as well. But it's very difficult when you see things that are happening every day. So how do one navigate through these complex, chaotic world to practice compassion for every sentient being?
Okay, this is a very good question. Thank you. Thank you, Yana. By the way, keep in mind that this young man is another very brilliant person who got scholarships, very prestigious scholarship, and he did studies in USA. UK. That's amazing. Okay. So this is a very serious question. So what I would suggest is that, okay, let's say that okay, for a child, one day is very important. One day is very important. Today is very important. The child cannot see what is tomorrow. But as parents, they can see what is tomorrow. So today, if today goes wrong for the child, everything is as though like the whole world has collapsed. But for the parents, no, today is just one thing. If it is a failure, don't worry, tomorrow's there. You have years in front of you. So we have to say, what is the time? Time, okay, now everywhere is happening. So it never stops. You use the word, it never stops. So, what do you mean it never stopped? Did it happen since 0.3 million years ago? And what about the time of the Buddha? What the time of Jesus Christ? What at the time of these great teachers? One by one they came, and in Tibet, for example, say there was a golden era in Tibet. Golden era in Tibet. 11th century was a golden era for Tibet. Revival of Buddhism and the whole civilization was revived, not only religion. So these eras were, it's not that it's happening every time, since the time, like 0.3 million years ago till today, is always down. No. And there's a renaissance there. So the point is that what we see as the horrible situation today, the world over, and if you think that this is it never stops, but it's not true. But we have to put effort to stop this, and more so put effort to see how this will not be repeated in the future. This is very important. So who can do that? Those people who are smart, those who are more visionary, they can do such things. So His Holiness the Dalai Lama deliberately, and I used to really feel mesmerized by His Holiness's visions, courage, and to see very far away in the future. So His Holiness never advocates violence. When I was a little boy, there should be such violence. This was what it was in my mind. Because the communist Chinese will not understand our language of peace. This was what was going in my mind. Now, I see that this is amazing. His Holiness way of this vision of the world, for the Tibetan people, for Buddhism, for the world. And that not just today, short term, it's long term. We need two things. One is that what is happening today, His Holiness often has described this as the negligence of our past. What negligence? We have to learn from the history. Don't repeat this negligence in the next time. Don't neglect. Don't make sure that such negligence is not repeated. Number one. Number two, to make sure that because these neglects don't happen, then future will be bright, beautiful. But there's a danger. Don't forget this. There's once a BBC interviewed the Dubai leader, Dubai king, and said that, "Sir, you are the father of the modern Dubai. What advice do you have for the people of the world?" And what is that? This is very important for us, particularly for the young ones. He said that he did not give a direct answer. What is that? Is that my grandfather rode a camel. My father rode a camel. And I'm riding Mercedes. My son will ride Mercedes. No, my son will ride Rolls Royce. My grandson will again ride a camel. And the BBC interviewer was confused. What is this answer? So he said that difficult times produce strong men. Strong men produce easy times. Easy time produce weak men. Weak men produce difficult times. We should not forget this. This is a message from somebody who created this today's modern Dubai. So it's a big message for us. So therefore, we should make sure that in facing great opportunity, if possible, this message, keeping this message in mind, we have to think of how that the hard times or difficult times, of course, it gives rise to strong men. And strong men gives rise to easy times. And the easy times, he said, will give rise to weak men. A weak man will give rise to difficult times. So how the easy times do not give rise to weak men? How to make sure that easy times continue to give rise to strong men? How to make it happen? This should be the effort of the new generation. Thank you.
Thank you, Venerable Geshe Dorji Damdul. Thank you to our audience for their contributions. And now we're going to take a group photo.